right, welcome back to our series on how politics really works. This episode is going to be on political cover. So here we are, I think this is episode 8. What is political cover? How do we give it to people accidentally? How do we not give it to people accidentally? So again, we're trying to get homeschoolers trained up for the legislative session that is coming and every future legislative session, because they're just going to keep getting more aggressive in coming after homeschooling. So we're going to jump right in. Hopefully you've watched all the other videos. If you haven't yet, go back and give them a quick listen. But I want to jump right in on what is political cover. I'll tell you at the outset, you've seen it a million times, okay? You've seen it happen. You've had it done to you. You've seen politicians do it over and over and over. And it would be a great exercise for, thinking like a homeschool mom here. It would be great if we could train up our kids and show them little media blips and let them identify that person is trying to use political cover, or that person is using that organization as political cover, and things like that. This is great, hands-on. Once you spot it, you can't stop seeing it, and you never fall for it again. But we're just going to jump right into it. What is political cover? Political cover is when somebody wants to do something. Well, okay, so we've talked about the inertia, right? We've talked about how they don't want to move. So they don't want to take an action. It will make somebody mad. They're balancing on that 3% plus 1. So political cover comes into play when they're forced to do something they don't want to do. And so it's like, well, I have to take an action. I'm going to tick someone off. So how can I mitigate the damage? Again, this is political pain for them. They have angry voters, right? They don't like this. The voters don't like this. Some of them. Now, there's, of course, now some voters that are now happy because of what they've done, because of the other side of the political coin. So when a politician is forced out of inertia and has to take an action, he will almost always look for political cover so they can mitigate the damage caused to the people that are irritated by the action. So political cover is when a politician does something wrong that some of the voters are not going to like, but they wrap it up in something that looks right. Okay, this is basically camouflage for politicians. And I have 6 brothers and a lot of hunters. Camouflage is very familiar to me. It's how politicians pass bad laws and still keep smiling at homeschool families when we traipse into their room with a baked good on Capitol Day. Okay, this is how they do it. Political cover means they get to vote against our freedom and against our autonomy and against our parental rights while pretending they still stand with us, right? So here's how it works in the homeschool world, but again, as usual, apply this to every conservative social topic. First, they say, we worked with homeschool leaders on this bill, aka if you oppose it, you stand outside of what homeschool leadership wants to do. Now, the translation there is they might have emailed one friendly contact who homeschools who didn't tell them it was the worst idea ever, right? So that's tactic number 1. We talked to homeschool leadership, and homeschool leadership never talked to them, or, homeschool leadership actually told them this is a horrible idea or whatever. But they get to now couch whatever they're about to do in that political cover. Well, I talked to homeschool leadership. You don't stand opposed to homeschool leadership, do you? The second thing they'll do is they'll call for a task force or a study committee, right? And that sounds harmless, but it's usually stacked with bureaucrats and yes men and teachers unions who think that homeschoolers are the problem. But again, this is hard to counter because, are you a bigger expert than all the people on that board, on that little committee, on that little informal study, right? And again, thinking about access-based politics, right? Who's on that committee? It's all the people that went for the bait and want access to them and are happy to give them political cover. It's all the access-based organizations that want a seat at the table, that want that respect. So their study committee is stuffed with people who used to be standing with you, and they've now got them standing with them, okay? So see how that worked? Be watching that, okay? So the people on this study committee are not us. They don't want us on their study committee. They want yes men, teachers, professionals, PhDs that intimidate us into going, well, I'm a homeschool mom with 4 kids who, hasn't worked in 10 years because I'm at home with the kids. And who am I to say this is a bad idea, right? It's all intentional when they bring up the study committee or the think tank. The third thing they'll do is they'll add a homeschool exemption to a bad bill, or as we saw here in Texas, oh, we've got them to file a thing that protects homeschooling from the TEA, the Texas Education Association, ever regulating homeschoolers. Like, we're not worried about the TEA telling us what to do. We're worried about the legislature telling us what to do, okay? But they add a homeschool exemption to a bad bill. Usually it's vague. I mean, we had that repeatedly this year in Texas in the fight over school choice. The Texas Homeschool Coalition kept propping up these bogus throwaway victories that we were given, quote unquote, as a to a palliative to get over the sting of the horribly worded school choice bill they passed here in Texas. And so we saw political cover 101 there. Here, we have a constitutional amendment to the state constitution that would not let the TEA regulate homeschoolers. Like, the TEA can't regulate homeschoolers anyway. Only the legislature can. And that's who we're worried about. The people that are currently legislating us with school choice bills we don't like. And so anyway, you get the point. It's often fine, it's poorly worded. I mean, there have been enormous public outcry in Texas from homeschoolers about the supposed fixes they amended to some of the other constitutional amendments and other things they've offered as, here, look, we're doing this for homeschoolers, all of which have been a joke. Okay, so when you read the fine print, usually this thing they're offering us is vague, it's temporary, it can easily be taken out with just an amendment. So the fourth thing they do to get political cover is they look for a conservative endorsement. And this is the dirty belly of the beast here. This is where they create their own PACs, organizations, mom groups, conservative Christian leader, pastors' councils, or some other group that they are, in bed with. And I say that politically most of the time. They either create these organizations themselves or they just cozy right up, and it's a sick symbiotic relationship. But these conservative organizations give them political cover. And what that means is this group of pastors said that this is a wonderful pro-life bill. Or this group of, FUDs for gun rights, they say that this bill won't do anything to the Second Amendment. Or in the case of homeschooling, this homeschool organization that was founded in the last 6 months and is mostly funded by out-of-state money from Betsy DeVos, they say this bill is good. That's the kind of thing you'll see. And of course, even if they don't make the organization themselves, or it's not Betsy DeVos's money, they still will. You'll see there's a double. Like I said, it's symbiotic. The state-based orgs, the access-based lobby groups, they want to be that conservative group that's getting the mentions by legislators. It makes them look powerful. It makes them look like they've got access to these people, and these people are listening to them. So they're quick to work together to subvert real, true legislation that's actually good on the topic we're talking about, whatever that may be. Babies, guns, homeschooling, whatever. And so you'll get these organizations that provide political cover. And that endorsement becomes their shield. That's their political shield, while the rest of us have to be blindsided, because now we're not just up against a cowardly legislator, we're now up against this whole entire organization, which of course, it's symbiotic. They all are helping each other. And so, and just to explain what this can look like all the way to its fullest conclusion, this can look like the sellout organization files, pushes to have a sellout bill filed. And so what I'm going to, I'll give an example here from the pro-life world, because I've spent a lot of time fighting in pro-life politics in recent years. And so a lot of these memories come right back to me because I remember these fights in specific states. But essentially what happens is the sellout organization that fundraises millions of dollars a year will write a bill that has absolutely no chance whatsoever of moving, because they're not going to do any work to get it to move. They don't intend for it to move, right? So their sellout legislator gets to file this amazing bill that they're going to put no money, no effort, no time into getting to move. He gets to brag on his socials and in his emails to his constituents that he is the most pro-life legislator and he filed this amazing bill. And they get to say, the sellout organization gets to say, look, we've got legislators filing our bills for us. We're working together, and it's just those mean, bad people that don't agree on this issue that are the problem. You see that really sick symbiotic relationship where that legislator now gets to vote for taxpayer-funded abortion, but no one can say he's for abortion because he filed the most pro-life bill in the state. Meanwhile, no one can say that organization isn't getting things done. Legislators are filing their bills. Now, what are they doing to move those bills? What pressure are they putting on legislators? How much money are they spending getting knowledge of that bill out into the community, and how much actual effort is going into it? Virtually none. They're going to fundraise off of it? Absolutely. Help us get this moving. Written by ChatGPT from their vacation house. This is literally happening in state capitals all over the country. This is political cover at work. People want to be the organization mentioned in the news articles by the legislator, and the legislator wants to be the legislator that the organization talks about. And this works in homeschooling. It works in every political space. And the left does the exact same thing on their on their topics. So this isn't like something uniquely horrible that's going on in our camp. This is how the adjudication of power works. And these people are playing the game very well. So, and obviously you'll always see when you're dealing with an education topic, we're going to see, this is for the children. We want to protect children. They invoke child safety every time they want to expand government control over education, because nobody wants to be the person saying, no, let's not protect kids. Let's not make sure kids are safe. But let's be really clear about this. They're using rare, infrequent tragedies as a weapon to attack parental rights and parental freedom and homeschooling. So this political cover game, it exists for one reason, and it's to trick good people, motivated people, principled people into standing down. That's what they want. They want that inertia. They want you to go away. They want you to be quiet. And so, hey, I've talked to homeschool leadership. I've had a committee that has 2 homeschool moms on it. 5 years ago that came in and now is on their team, you got played big time. Or, we're doing it for the kids. Or this state-based organization or think tank or, recently funded out-of-state organization, has told me this is a good bill. And so I'm just doing what the homeschool community is asking me to do. See how this works? Oh, and then, again, last ditch, it's for the children's safety. It's like this, and I'm just going to, this is going to hurt. This is going to sting, okay? I'm going to kind of explain how homeschoolers do this without even realizing it. Sometimes we give bad legislators cover without realizing it or intending to. And the number one way we do that is we believe the good guy excuse. We believe that song and dance about, if you just knew the pressure in here, if you knew how wicked everything is, if you knew how awful they all are, if you knew the powers that are against us. And we go, he's just, we got to pray for him. He's the only guy in there. He's all alone. It's like, or we say things like, well, at least he listens to us. The other guy is a raving lunatic who would legislate homeschoolers into oblivion. Or they say things like, we say things to ourselves, we have to stay in the room if we're going to have any influence, right? That's how the right loses. That's how homeschoolers lose. That's how we hand over credibility to people who despise our freedom, who despise homeschooling. Because when homeschoolers lend their names, their organizations, or even just their silence to bad policy, that's not us being polite or finding room to compromise. All it is we're giving politicians the very thing they need most: political cover. They get the appearance of consent from homeschoolers. And it's just, we have to stop doing it. They get to project this illusion of unity. No one's speaking against us if we be quiet, right? The photo op that says even homeschoolers agree, if you stand up there with him and your family and his legislative aide takes your family picture and he says, can I throw this on Facebook? You just gave him political cover to vote however he wants. He doesn't have to vote the way you said. He gets to use you as political cover. And see, people who weren't there at the Capitol that day, they're going to say, well, he's obviously listening to homeschoolers. I mean, this is a tough, he's listening to homeschoolers. They're in his office. He's doing the best he can. And once they've used your face and your name and your kids to sell the bill or to sell the way they're going to vote on the bill to other homeschoolers, you can't take it back, right? We can't undo that. So here's a new rule going forward for us as homeschoolers, how we're not going to do things. If it expands state power over homeschooling, if it adds new oversight, if it opens the door to any future regulation, we don't touch it. We don't negotiate with it. We don't make peace with it. We don't compromise with it. We don't just shut up about it. We expose it. We have to, because political cover only works in the dark. These people only get away with this if we do exactly what they want, which is go away. So we're going to shine a light on it. We're going to bring it out of the dark. And that's how we're going to protect homeschooling. Not by being in the room or getting at the table with everybody, but by making everybody in that room afraid to touch us. I hope this has been helpful. I'm obviously extremely passionate about this. I hope nobody feels like I'm chewing them out personally. I hope we've all done this in the past, right? This is kind of the nice man politics. We're done with that. That is over. And I hope everybody watching this realizes how this game has changed and how we cannot do what we've been doing in the past. If you haven't yet, jump on our website, homeschoolfreedomcoalition.org. Jump on there, sign up for our email alerts, join and become a member, donate so we can get the word out to more homeschoolers for faster ahead of this coming legislative session. In the meantime, stay free, stay the course.